Call meeting to order.
Okay, calling the meeting, Accountability Board to order, Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. I will pass it over to Acting Director Jose Murillo to read the public notice.
Okay, thank you. As a reminder, the public notices on our agenda. It reads to access meeting remotely, join from a PC, iPad, iPhone, or Android device, using the URL noted on the agenda. If you do not wish to appear on screen, use the drop-down menu and click on rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raise hand icon on the screen. To join by phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 and enter meeting ID 890-0783-8093. If you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press star 9 and wait to be recognized. With that, Chair, I'll proceed to our roll call. Chair Cayetano.
Here.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Here.
Board Member Bills
Here.
And Board Member Wells.
Here.
And on behalf of staff, we have myself, Acting Director Murillo, we have David Addison and Investigator Weinberg. And on behalf of the BPD, we have Lieutenant Coates who will be joining us later once we return from closed session. So with that said, Chair, we can proceed to the approval of the agenda.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? But just for the public's notice, we're going into closed session first today, such that we will not be back to our normal agenda item until around 7:30. So we'll come back out of closed session around 7:30. So if you're tuning in online, I just want to flag that for you so that you're not surprised when we're offline for an hour or so. So you'll be welcome back at 7:30. With that, can I get a motion to approve unless there's any amendments?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Wilson with a second from Board Member Building for Code. Are there any objections to the motion? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Again, we'll be returning from closed session in about an hour. Thank you.
Great, everyone.
Chair, we are back in open session.
Welcome back, everyone. Apologies, that's definitely not 7:30. But thank you for your patience, and we're gonna get back to our regularly scheduled programming now. So with that, we'll go to agenda item 4, which is the announcement of closed session action. The board heard one case, and we approved most of staff's recommendations, and then we took different action on a couple of allegations. With that, we will go to public comments. I don't know, is there anyone online?
Yes.
Okay,
So we do have a few speakers. I'll go straight to our virtual attendees just because we don't have folks in the room to provide public comment. Just one moment while I get the timer set up. Just one moment. Okay, great. So we'll have Maria Sol up first. You've been granted permission to speak.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's why I'm here. Number one, to acknowledge the imperative, essential, utterly necessary function that you are trying to provide for Berkeley. So thank you. Accountability, transparency, and on and on. So thank you, first of all. And secondly, hung in 30, and I couldn't have been more impressed. I really couldn't have been. I'm starting to cry. It's that for real. I couldn't have been more impressed with the amount of work and diligence and perseverance and thoroughness and amazingness of your presentation. So again, I'm here to thank you. And I'm really, really old, and it's really important that you know how appreciated you are and that you must be supported, because I've been on this kind of thing ever since forever, living in Chicago, where, they just look at you and pull you over. It's like, all right. So bless you, bless you, bless you. I hope you got some sleep. And thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Then we have one more speaker. Kelly Cameron, you've been granted permission to speak. Just one moment while I reset the clock for you. Okay, we're ready for you.
Okay, Kelly Hammergren, I also wanted to say thank you for last night. I was totally impressed. And in fact, I skipped the normal commission meeting that I go to on Wednesday evenings to be here to hear your discussion of what happened last night and also at the safety committee. And I've been looking through the documents for city council and your documents, and it seems to me that last night I was watching from home online on Zoom that you had documents with your presentation, and I was wondering where I would find those, if there's a way to access them someplace. Thank you.
Thank you. I think our materials have been submitted on the website. Is that right?
That's correct, and we're happy to direct any community members. Just if you send us a quick email, give us a call tomorrow. We're happy to direct you where that material is on the website. With that said, Chair, we have no additional public comment.
Okay, thank you for your comment. We will go next to agenda item 6, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Are there any objections to the motion to approve the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, the motion carries.
Great, let's go to agenda item 7, on the staff report, acting director.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to start just by informing folks that weren't able to tune into the meeting last night. and the board that interim director Lee has officially been appointed. The first day will be March 31st. The team is excited to have her on board, and we look forward to helping her with her transition and of course supporting the board in its work. Part of that transition will include prioritizing various tasks that are held up currently by our office, including some requests from the board that we haven't had a chance to follow up through in the last week, given the different priorities that the board had. But we'll be reporting on those tasks at a future meeting. And that's all that I had. And then of course, we're working on the annual report. Now that we've been freed up with the recent passing of these meetings, we'll have more time to dedicate to that. We'll be coordinating with different staff members, and staff members from BPD, to look over some of their data, which was a comment that was brought up during the special meeting yesterday, in which members of the community were interested in us reviewing their data. And we've had preliminary conversations as to what that can look like. So we look forward to sharing more. With that said, I don't have any additional comments. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from board? Questions? Thank you for being there last time. I'm sure we'll hear more about it later on in the meeting, but I appreciate you sticking it out there with us. With that, and to the rest of the staff as well. I don't know where they are, but thank you for all of you being there. Let's go to agenda item 8, which is chair and board member reports. Is there any reports from the board?
I don't have a report, but I have a comment.
Please.
One, I want to say how much I appreciate one of our public commenters, Kelly Hammergren, who it was only about 8 months ago that I found out about her, and I'm saying this now for all of our millions of listeners, because if you don't subscribe to her email or listserv, I really encourage you to. It's a kind of keeps you up to date on all of the meetings that are going on in city government. And I just think it's so important when we talk about civic engagement. Like, step one is just knowing what's going on. So I really appreciate that. I wanted to say that. And that's it. My next comment will actually be when we talk about subcommittees.
Okay, great. I didn't know about that either, so thank you for
Yes, it's very
letting me know.
very cool.
My update are things that were reported out kind of at the council, which is that we know that there were 3, we have 4 people, we're a board technically of 9. There were 3 council members who suggested that they have appointed or that they have appointments that are pending confirmation. So I'm looking forward to meeting those, and I'm also looking forward to having Director Kathy Lee here. I was able to meet with her, and I think that she will very much benefit this board and the work here in Berkeley. And there were some great comments from all the council members about the important work of this board, and the urgency that they took with appointing her. So I appreciated that. A lot of the other things that I had to say will probably be covered in the meeting, so I'll just move on from there. But thank you very much. Let's go now to the Chief of Police report, which I believe is being taken by Secretary.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of things we wanted to update you and the community on. So we've had a couple of cases of interest this past couple weeks since March. Russell and the 1500 block of Russell Street on the 17th, officers responded to a family disturbance in that area, and this kind of took up most of the day, but the situation escalated in the afternoon when we got a second call at the address where it was reported that an individual was assaulted another with a firearm. Ultimately, the officers were able to seize the firearm, and 2 people were arrested, one for assault and the other for weapons related offenses out of that case. Also, just this past weekend on the 21st, officers responded for domestic disturbance in the 1200 block at Ashby, where the caller stated the woman was being held against her will. During that investigation, officers observed indicators of potential drug activity. They obtained a search warrant for the residence, and during that search, officers seized more than 30 pounds of marijuana. 17 grams of powdered cocaine, 39 grams of THC wax, and 34 grams of MDMA pills on that case. And then just yesterday, we had a road rage incident on University Avenue. Whereas the responsible reportedly had threatened another person with a handgun, officers quickly located the suspects, took that person into custody and also seized their firearm in that case. We've been engaged in some community events recently, so we just wanted to highlight some of those events. On March 8th, Sephora recognized our officers in honor of International Women's Day. So we were able to have a presence there. On the 12th,
I'm sorry, did you say Sephora?
Sephora, yeah, down on 4th Street.
Oh, cool. Did they do something for you guys?
I'm sure it was actually my job, but I know we posted on Instagram, so they actually did something for the officers that were working that day, so it was actually very nice. Also, we attended on the 12th, we attended the daylighting implementation recognition event, so that's the if people aren't familiar, that's the two red curves next to the crosswalk, so we went to that event. On the 13th, several members of the department also attended the Chancellor's Breakfast. On the 18th, we held another coffee with the cop at Roasted Toast Cafe, so we appreciate their partnership there. Had a good event that day. And then today, Officer White was able to attend a law enforcement PIO media roundtable at Livermore PD. There was a discussion between several law enforcement PIOs, or public information officers for the county, which included Oakland, Union City, Alameda County Sheriffs, Newark, Tracy PD, and Fremont PD, along with Livermore and many others. The idea is that we met with several media outlets in the Bay Area, TV, media, and print. And then there's a second part of the roundtable for the PIOs to discuss ways we can better respond to issues and critical incidents that we're facing here in the region. And then from the chief, the department sincerely appreciates the past partnership presenting to council last night that allowed the council and community to hear valuable information regarding our technology proposal, and we're grateful for the board's engagement. The chief would also like to share how much she appreciated working with acting director Murillo and looks forward to working with interim director Lee as well. So she would like me to pass on that next to the board and then also to acting director Murillo for his work. So that was all I have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Okay. Thanks so much. Let's go to agenda item 10, subcommittee reports.
Okay. Alright, sliding stuff for the meeting. As always, I'll go down the list of subcommittees. I'll skip the policy review subcommittee just because unless we're planning to appoint somebody to that today.
No, we're still waiting for more board members.
In that case, I'll start with the metrics and operations. Vice Chair Wilson and Board Member Wilson.
I have nothing to report on, but have we made any progress on hearing back about the review of the PD budget?
I have not had any updates.
Okay.
I'll share follow up.
I think I asked you at one point because you were gonna reach out to the city manager.
I'm meeting with him on Friday, so I can ask.
Okay.
Just remind me what to ask.
Okay, I'll send you an email, but this is this issue of at what point do we get to exercise our charter right to review the BPD budget? Yeah.
Okay. Outreach and engagement, one of the subcommittees we have an open item with. I'm not sure if there's any other updates.
Is that the subcommittee that's doing commendations?
Yes.
So this is what I wanted to make a comment on. I think that it's pretty unconscionable that we have not gotten to accommodation. And I say that as someone, you know, we've obviously taken very strong positions, often counter to the department. Many challenges, I think, particularly with leadership or major policy decisions. But I think it's equally as important that we recognize the great work of officers. And so what I would like to propose, I really don't know what's going on with that right now, but maybe at our next meeting, I don't want to jinx us, but if we're not in crisis mode with a major policy issue, could we agendize a just review of commendations and a
So
discussion?
can I don't know if you want to say, I emailed Jose about this over, or a month ago now.
Oh, to put it on our agenda.
Well, I have not been getting commendations, we haven't been getting the commendations.
Yeah, part of that, there was a batch that had been reviewed earlier that it's really more of on us to pin down, just an earlier batch that had been processed by the board, I believe, I forgot who was on it previously, had been sent over, but hadn't been agendized. Then there's a second portion where we have to request and determine what's the period that we haven't reviewed, of commendations from the police department.
Okay, so I would request that you prioritize that, and if it is possible to put this on the agenda, not for decisions, but even to just give us time to discuss, review. I just really want to move it forward.
We have a board member assigned to it, so.
Okay.
that's- I just.
Well,
But are you okay with this?
I totally am, so again, I reached out to, so I reached out to the vice chief of BPD, just because I didn't realize that we were actually getting commendations from them. And just said, how do I get this started? Like, we'd like to get them, and then she was like, I've been sending them to you.
So
And
let's,
then that's when I reached out to Jose, and then it was like, what's going on?
okay, let's do that then.
Yeah, we'll certainly reach out. There's been a gap in certain months just with different priorities where, on both sides, we haven't been sending those over, reviewing them. So we'll make sure that we get back on that to those quarterly periods that we have been doing.
Okay, and then I want to put a plug out there for the Netflix movie, The Perfect Neighbor. If any of you guys have seen that, have you? Okay. This is absolutely incredible. Did you, Dan? Have you heard about it?
I heard.
It's all body worn camera footage. It is, it was up for an Oscar for best documentary film. And it's incredible. And it shows police dealing with very, very challenging situations. And I think dealing with it incredibly well. And it's just I think it's a must watch for us on an oversight board. And it just kind of reminded me that we need to focus on the really great work that's done as well as, the stuff that's not so great. So.
Yeah. We're making good recommendations, you got the vlog and then.
Yeah, a vlog and a movie, yeah.
Okay, let's keep going down the list.
Okay, so then up next we have policies and practices on academic things.
Okay, so, board member Wells, sorry, I missed our
Sorry.
subcommittee meeting, but we had one with, our wonderful student from Berkeley Law who informed me that that was her last meeting. She's no longer doing work for us, but she did give me, what she had done. And she does have the beginnings of a recommended policy. So you and I really need to meet on it. I will say that one of the issues that we'll need to discuss, when we bring this forward to the full board, is the scope of an encampment clearance policy, because what other jurisdictions have done is far beyond what the police's role is in encampment clearance. And in fact, police may or may not be the lead agency in encampment clearance. Our scope and purview is pretty clearly around police policy, not, what Public Works is gonna do or anybody else. And so that's like a little bit of a challenge with what she's presented to us, but we do have the parameters of a policy, we have all of the source material, and now we just need to work through it. So moderate progress has been made.
Okay. And that wraps up our subcommittee list.
Is that something that you'd want, so a representative from the city manager's office, maybe if we could get them on the subcommittee with you?
Yeah, it would be good, but I just think we need to do a little bit more before we're ready.
Just plan, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to agenda item 11. I. Discussion action on follow items related to the March 2026 Public Safety Policy Committee meeting and the March 2026 regular city council meeting. We're gonna start with the Public Safety Policy Committee's review of resolution rescinding resolution about air support and canine units and updating mutual aid policies. I think the director and his staff were there, so we are going to turn it over to them to hear a report.
Yeah, so it's one relatively brief update. The Public Safety Policy Committee was in receipt of the board's letter and it was mentioned. I think something that was acknowledged, not just from our perspective, but everybody involved in the agenda process, was that the way that it was transmitted, it wasn't readily available for members of the public, although it was available on our website prior to the meeting. It works a little differently than when it does with council, where we transmit it. And then it gets shared with the folks that are usually involved with the committee. So again, the community, or rather the committee was aware of the letter, but some members of the community weren't. So that's one area of improvement that where we can as an office, we'll certainly make sure that the community would get it. But in terms of back to the decision, the Public Safety Policy Committee ultimately voted to send this forward to council with a qualified positive recommendation. With the caveat that there are some edits to the list of permissible uses, particularly on the language of permitting the use of helicopters to all as the language on the as permitted under the mutual aid agreements. There was a discussion that it was overly broad in terms of that inclusion. There were also an introduction of new language that the board may wish to consider before the next meeting, which we're still coordinating to see when that will be scheduled. In the original presentation that the board considered, the section on K9 units and the permissible uses remained unchanged. But there was a last minute supplemental that introduced new changes to the permissible uses. One was the allocation or allowing the use of K9s for bomb sweeps or to address bomb threats. And the second one I'm blanking out on, I'm not sure, but
It was related. Currently, it was written that you could only use dogs if there were in an enclosed space. And then Deputy Chief Tate said that it was oftentimes dogs are used on leashes now, and so that isn't a concern. So they removed that language that it needs to be an enclosed space with no one else present beyond the. So that was their proposal.
thank you. And again, we'll be seeing the updated item at a future agenda. I'll be coordinating with the clerk's office to print out that date. I wasn't able to do so before today's meeting. But as soon as we have the date and the updated material, we'll let the board know. So that we could address it if the board decides to.
Are there any questions first about what the Public Safety Committee discussed? No? Are there any comments from the board? I have a few questions. I have a few questions and comments. Did the committee discuss our recommendation?
The letter was mentioned and it was acknowledged, in terms of, what, if the question is, was this like a portion of the meeting where the letter was dissected? The answer is no, but the letter was acknowledged as part of the consideration leading up to, the committee's decision.
So was there a discussion of the balance between, accountability and public safety and oversight that we raised in our letter?
I wouldn't characterize that the discussion at that committee was as detailed to go that far. I think there was an acknowledgement that at the committee level, they were just sort of screening the item before there was full council consideration. But beyond that, there was an additional commentary as to that aspect of the board's correspondence.
And is it your expectation based on that conversation that they're going to consider it soon at the next city council meeting, or you don't know?
I don't know, and I'll step back a bit. Part of where the letter did become relevant, was in my earlier note about it not being readily publicly available. So sent forward to council with the requirement that that letter be included as part of the agenda report that's going to be considered by council.
Okay. So I guess my question for the board is whether we think our letter was sufficient to pass it on to the city council, or if we think that there's additional investigation, consideration, recommendation that we need to make, given that this is likely gonna go forward, and once we say yes or no to that question, we can talk about it from there. If we're okay with our letter, my only recommendation would be to approve, to send it to the council. We sent it to the public safety committee meeting, it would be to style it to the council.
Just to clarify that, although it was addressed to the public safety committee, the letter itself is going to be transmitted to council.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that
Yeah.
they resolved.
Yeah, I just know that the letter itself was sent to only the public safety committee, so I wanna. And we, to style, it's styled to the public safety committee, so it's just gonna be included in the packet, you're saying?
Yes, it'll be a part of the published agenda packet
Okay,
as an attachment.
so is there any other action that we think is necessary on this? No, I'm not,
I
not here, okay. I'm gonna talk to the mayor and city manager about making sure that going forward, our materials are included in the agenda packets or on the website at least. I think it was also the case that during the meeting yesterday that our letters were not publicly available, so I think that's important. And I'll figure it out with them. Okay,
If I may, just
Yeah.
before transition, I think that there was at committee level, there was an acknowledgement of the process in which that letter wasn't in the public material that was made. And the committee made the commitment that they'll be coming back with the proposed update to the procedures to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again.
okay, good.
So I just want to bring that context, so that's
Great.
great.
Okay, let's go now to, let me just call off my item. Let's go now to 10:2, I think, right? Sorry, 11:2. 11:2, council's consideration of the public safety technology, surveillance technology ordinance. Police equipment ordinance approvals, policy updates, and contract authority. I guess I'll give it to acting director Murillo first, if you want to say a few words before.
Just procedurally, council didn't take any action on the contract itself. It's more of it got pushed towards a special meeting. That my understanding is it's yet to be determined. There's some dates that are floating around, but the dates themselves haven't been confirmed. But during that presentation, or during that item, BP provided a presentation, which we have uploaded on our website, for members of the public that weren't able to make the meeting, and the recording should be up on the council webpage now, if you'd like to tune in. In addition to the board's presentation, that was also provided right after the BPD's presentation. So those materials are available now, both on our website, and should be available on the council website, through the meeting recording. And I'll hand it back to Chair Kaiton and Vice Chair Wilson for any additional comments and thoughts.
Okay, I'll pass to Vice Chair Wilson if you wanna say anything about, no recap.
I mean,
Reflections.
reflections, it was a very long night. And I think my reflection is that our work was impactful and it made a difference. And I think that I saw that, and it was a tremendous amount of work on all of our parts. But that we did make a difference and we contributed, I think, very positively to the dialogue. And we saw multiple supplementals introduced by members of council directly responsive to issues that we had raised. And so I'm grateful for that. I do think, and part of when you asked if we need to do something more on helicopters and dogs, that we just have to pick our battles and figure out how to be effective. And you could see kind of the dynamics on council and certainly the cohort that is very interested in moving forward. And it's hard to know what would be actually persuasive, particularly when you're trying to come at things, as I know I personally am, and I think we all are, not from a super dogmatic perspective. and kind of hyperbolic place, but rather saying we want to have good policing and good public policy and in this town and kind of responsible governance. And so sometimes that is going to require things like slowing down. But it's hard to carry that message when there's a lot of noise on either side. So that was my kind of takeaway, but yeah, haven't been up that late in a long time.
Yeah.
There were a lot of members of the public that came to the meeting, and many of them spoke out in favor of our recommendations. And like Vice Chair Wilson said, many of the council members, in fact, all of them, drew on our recommendations in some form or another. So the first thing that I said when we were introducing our item, our presentation, was that you know, we're a board of 4 out of 9, and we've been inundated by many items that are changing really fundamentally how policing is being done in many ways. And we've risen to the occasion and putting our best recommendations forward on very short timelines. And I think that the council understood that and really appreciated us for being there and for presenting and for our work. So I just wanted to really thank the board for that work. I know that there were a lot of community members who also reached out to me afterward who were very appreciative of the work that we do. And so I'm thankful for the people on this board, and I'm looking forward to more board members coming on and taking some of the lead so we can do the other things that we're also required to do by the charter. I do like, you know, at the end of the day, our recommendation was to pause and so that we can consider more fully the proposal that was being made. And the effect of what happened at the council was the item will not be considered until June 3rd, I believe. I could be wrong on that date, but I believe it's June 2nd or 3rd.
Mhm.
And so we do have now 3 months to consider what this board, what follow-up action this board wants to take when it comes to the items. And I think just to give, like, there were a lot of public comments. I mean, like the majority of public comments, I think there were like over like 90, not counting seated time. I'd say like 90% of those were specifically against flock. And I think that one of the potential things, and what Vice Chair Wilson pointed out, and was part of our presentation, was that we haven't seen really a documented vendor process throughout all this. We haven't seen, there was criteria, actually, there was there was a.
In the presentation last night, we saw for the first time.
Which is why I asked Acting Director Murillo to post the presentation, so it's publicly available for us to view, that we hadn't really seen or talked about when it came to selecting a vendor. And so one of the things that I talked about with Director Murillo about was asking staff, you know, to make a motion, like to ask staff to compile a list of vendors that other neighboring jurisdictions are using right now when it comes to drones and different surveillance technologies, just so that we can be aware of those in case that we want to do some due diligence around those. I mean, like, just I was looking very briefly at like a few, and I know that San Francisco and Oakland use different vendors for things like that. And then so I asked if that was a possibility, and that was something we talked about. So if the board wants to engage in that venture, I think that it's a next step that we could take. The other thing that I was considering was we all recommended that the department put forward a consolidated acquisition report for a consolidated vendor. And I think one of the things that I'm interested in, and a case that was not able to be made before the council because there was simply not enough time to make that case and no voice there to make that case with enough evidence, about the real incremental benefit that is gained from a consolidated vendor, compared to what it would look like to have, you know, a different vendor that has integrated systems, like different vendors for different tools that then is integrated. And to understand really from the department's perspective, what are they losing? And if that, what they're losing is minimum, less than the risks that we're taking on by contracting with the one vendor they say they can contract with. So I think really like taking that analysis step of what is the incremental benefit of having consolidated data systems is something that I'm personally interested in investigating. I think it's the next step that we could take. It wasn't something that was really discussed fully. And I think that we could refer it to staff for an initial look and they can come back to us. But that would be my suggestion.
Is the question of what or is?
Excuse me, sorry.
Is the whether they use a fully integrated system with one vendor like Fly, or use a variety of vendors for their needs? Is the question what are the differences, or is there a trade-off benefit?
I want to know what is the trade-off, and I think there was a couple of things that were mentioned at community meetings. For example, the chief mentioned it's like a more difficulty to audit certain things because you're looking at multiple screens. I mean, like that's like one example that was given at the community meeting. And so what I really want to do is to understand from the department's perspective, what are the trade-offs, what are they losing, and then what are the benefits from not having this consolidated system. So I think like really sharpening that conversation is something that we could benefit from.
I think it would be interesting if there were a third-party consultant to do it.
I do too, but we don't have money for that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like, once we take action today, I say that this is the stuff we want to do. I mean, like, one of the things that we could do is talk and is collaborate with the city manager's office, because that's something that they might be considering in the next 2 steps. I don't know.
I think another question that I have, just to follow your statement, is what is the right level of equipment BPD needs for the types of police activity that they're solving for? Right? Is it really a $2 million suite of drones and APR cameras, or is it something that is a lot smaller? Is there an opportunity to sort of test and learn so that it piloted a year and then you incrementally grow it over a couple of years, or does it all need to be done at one time?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the, one of the,
I think that's like an ops question.
yeah, one of the things that they mentioned at the committee meeting was that the flock drones are, their cameras better than Axon's. So again, it's a question of like,
What is it?
does that make a difference? Yes, they're better. Does that make a difference? And also like, why, like, if that's the case, why are all these neighboring jurisdictions using different cameras? Like that's you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's like, what's the difference between an iPhone 12 camera and an iPhone 14 camera?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is a difference, but not much.
So I mean, I think it's a question. I don't want to just assert things, you know, I want to be able to come with like information to the council. So my recommendation would be to submit it to staff and to ask them to come up with an initial look so that we can bring it back to our next meeting.
Could we, have we already asked BPD to just provide that analysis to us?
Yes, I've asked them for I've asked them, and there's not a paper trail. I asked them for the matrix and things of that. I think what I talked with Arlo about before coming to this meeting was, hey, this is what we're interested in. Can you write a report for us that would do that? And so I think really we could refer staff to work with them so that they can produce that for us.
Yeah.
And I think we should leverage that too.
Okay.
And I appreciate you doing this, Chair, because I really wasn't in the headspace for it. But I do think the big lingering question from last night is like, and what is gonna happen between now and June 2nd? I think the date is,
Yeah.
because council, we made a recommendation to defer, but with several accompanying actions, none of which took place, right?
Right.
So I like what you're saying. And I also know that at staff level, you met with Arlo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that there were many agreements on our changes to the policies.
Yes.
So I'm kind of seeing concurrent work. One is can we work collaboratively with BPD to make the policy revisions and address some of the kind of regulatory deficiencies that we saw in policies? Would they be willing to do that between now and the June 2nd meeting so that there's an updated set of policies? And then this other issue is getting at this foundational question of whether or not the optimal approach is a unified surveillance architecture, A, and B, are there viable alternatives to flock?
Right.
And that's something that, so like, on one level could be working to clear up all the policy issues, which I think many of which the department has said they're open to working on. And then, and maybe what I'm thinking is maybe we can ask staff to focus on that. And the other piece, I would be willing to work on, because I have the ability to get an intern who can work with us. So that's something we could take on. And I think somebody would be super interested in doing that, and we can work with the department as well. I mean, it's great if we can do it consolidated, but anyway, I'm just kind of thinking about two tracks of work. One is cleaning up the policies and regulatory compliance, and the other is unified surveillance architecture. Is flock the only viable game in town? The only other thing I'd say to Board Member Wells's comment, you're getting at the heart of AB 481 and really documenting the need for the technology.
Yeah.
I don't think the case has been made at all,
No, they do.
but this is where I get to our reality check. There's a complete glossing over the fact that crime trends have been going down since 2021. We don't have a crime problem that suggests we need to bring in helicopters, dogs, and all kinds of new surveillance technology. And yet that is the direction that our council is going in. And I just don't know what to do about that. Like, it makes me feel like I don't want to spend a ton of time, because most of them, the city council seems fine with drones. Like, everybody else has drones, we should get drones. The department says they're not gonna fill 3 positions, so let's go for the drones. So I don't know, I mean, it's just my honest reaction to that piece of what you're saying, which is so important. Like, do we really need it? I don't think so, but I don't think anybody cares, or not enough people care.
Yeah, well, I think the burden is on BPD to prove it out. Is I think is where I go, and the other place where I go is, if it feels like it's a foregone conclusion that we're gonna move down this path of surveillance cameras and drones, then I think we have a responsibility, and I think we have an opportunity to narrow the technology to specific uses. And to recommend, I think, an approach that is incrementally growing over time as milestones are being met.
Yeah, and that goes to a lot of your drone policy recommendations.
Yeah, I will say that, I mean, first of all, I thank you for your, I agree with you and what you're saying as well. I reached out to the city attorney's office because one of the things two things that I raised. One is that I think that the Berkeley Municipal Code Surveillance Technology Ordinance actually does not allow for a discretion, like a unenumerated discretionary grant of authorized uses, that instead you have to enumerate what authorized uses. The enumeration can be as broad as you want. You can say for enumerated for any purpose that the department thinks is appropriate. I mean, like, it can be that broad. I mean, like, I'm just, being a little hyperbolic, but I think that it would have to be enumerated. You can't have an unenumerated one based on what the purpose of the surveillance technology ordinance is, to make clear and to put parameters on the uses of the surveillance technology. And so I think there's an open question about that, and I will be waiting to hear back what they say about that. I mean, our recommendation was to keep it bounded. But we'll have to wait to hear about that. The second thing was that there was another commenter who brought up the fact that Flock Nova, which is a slightly different technology, it's an integrated technology, it's part of their platform. And whether that is required to
Have its own
acquisition.
Yeah, that was a very interesting comment.
And I also asked about that. So I think that those are two questions that are outstanding that are also things that can be done in the interim alongside everything else that you're talking about is like, I think there's multiple tracks that are going on. So, I mean, you were suggesting that you wanted,
So maybe we should map it out, because I think the AB 41 has the case been made for the, like, the need, has that burden been satisfied? That's its own track. And so we have multiple tracks, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get the work done. I just happened to interview a great student who, has funding to do work. And so I just think, yeah, I certainly could bring this person on to help us with any of it, but based on the interest that were expressed to me, I think the why flock,
sure,
that it would be appealing. Happy to bring the student in to support all of us, like, not trying to do this on my own, just saying that's a resource that I could supervise, that I think we could get a lot out of.
sure.
Yeah. And I know staff has already started working through the sort of details of the policy issues with Arlo. So I'm just suggesting that continue to maybe seeing some red lines, which is different from the need for the technology, which is also different from the need for an entirely new acquisition report for Flock Nova.
Yeah.
So maybe you can keep running that
Yeah.
particular thing down for sure.
I mean, we were cut short by these red lines, right? I felt like a lot of us didn't feel like we had enough time to really sit with them and review them. I think that maybe having a couple meetings where we bring it back once, we don't have a policy committee right now, so I think we just have to bring it back and then come back with more recommendations. And so I would be happy to like continue to bring back certain recommendations based on that, and so that we can maybe we can map out when the last meeting that we have where we have to finally vote on it, when that is, so that we can submit it to the council before their June 3rd meeting. I think we have 3 meetings. We have 2 in May and 1 in April. So we have enough time to do a lot of stuff like this. We have a lot of time in April to do intermediate work. We just have to kind of like start it now. If we're gonna get anything submitted again.
Okay. So we need to like divvy some things up.
Yeah,
That we should suggest we do now or next meeting?
nah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Are there any comments? I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on,
No, I'm in alignment.
okay. Board member,
I think it is the divvying out the work streams.
okay. We can take it on as we can figure out things as a board, but it's, we have like Brown Act issues if we're communicating with each other, so. Is there something of particular interest to you that you're,
Probably AB 481.
okay, is that aligned, it's too integrated, do you wanna,
It's not, I think it's fine
Where is
for
this?
board member Wells, if not all. And I'm happy to be a touch point on it as well, but I'd love for you to take the lead and run with that. Mine is more, it's very different. The one I'm suggesting is about like, what's the cost benefits of a unified surveillance architecture? And are there viable vendors other than Flock? And I wouldn't limit it to just within California, right? We could be
Yeah,
looking at,
a lot.
yeah.
and one thing that hasn't actually, I don't know if you know this, but Flock's drone program is new, it started in October last year.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Yeah, they acquired a company and that's how they integrated it, so and these things the drone programs have been going on for like 3 years, it wasn't mentioned, so I mean, like, that's another, data point for you. But I think, working with BPD to understand really to understand what process they went through. One thing that I was talking with Arlo about was that, and with board member Wells was that when he went to a demonstration, we got invited to one demonstration, right? It was one, and it was Brink. Was it Brink? And it was Flop, right?
No, it was just Brink.
It was just Brink.
It was just Brink, and it was just,
Brink does the armored cars.
no,
different Brink.
Okay.
this is Brink with a C.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brink
okay,
is-
all right.
And when I talked to Arlo, though, I was, I said, oh, I just want to be able to say like that you met with multiple vendors. And he listed like 9 different vendors.
But we were only invited to one.
But 9 different, yeah, he listed 9 different vendors. I was like, oh, do you have like information? I just want that information of like their assessment of them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
a readout, and so I think that's what something he's willing to work with us to provide, and I think that would be very helpful for what we're talking about.
But I think I think the most critical question to ask Carla is, what are your requirements
Yeah.
that you're looking for, regardless of the vendor?
Well, that is a good point, and I think that was something that was ringing in my head when I was reading the acquisition report, was that the acquisition report is like it's a conclusion driving the analysis. The conclusion is,
Yeah.
Consolidated survey, and so the analysis is, yeah, of course, there's no reasonable alternative because we have to have.
Yeah, we have to.
So the threshold question, well, not even that, I don't even think that that's something that was said, that every other department has an integrated work, I mean, the crime center, yeah, but not, the surveillance architecture. Crime center is different, yeah. Anyway, so that's what Vice Chair Wilson is suggesting that she works on.
Yeah, or we can work on it together, any other board member, I'm just saying I have the opportunity to have an intern. That's all I'm saying.
No, I think I'm happy to work on the policy piece and bring it back to the board next meeting and to work with, whoever on the department, is interested in working with me on that. I think that there are some things that were proposed, I mean, like, it's difficult because there were red lines proposed by the council, and so, I mean, like,
When is our next meeting?
April 17th.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't put some really heavy things on if we're gonna commit to spending time on computations, which I would like to do. So when you say you're gonna bring it back to the next meeting, I hope you don't mean like a huge packet of red lines.
No, they will be not touching the same things that the council touched on.
Okay. I guess I prefer to like wait maybe to the following meeting for our red lines.
That's fine, we can do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's like give ourselves
Some time.
yeah, give ourselves a meeting, let's do commendations, knock it out, and then let's.
Okay, okay, so I guess I don't know what to do, how to make a structure a motion around this.
Do you have
Do we
to?
need to?
Do we have to?
I think we
We're
should.
just saying we're gonna work on some stuff.
There isn't necessarily a referral that's being made to any particular, I guess, any particular referral, it's more of a setting of the game plan. So you could make a motion, but I don't think it's particularly necessary.
I wouldn't make a motion.
You don't think a motion is necessary?
I think we should do the work. I don't think it needs to be on the record what work we're doing, what work we are doing just yet.
Okay. I think the minutes should reflect that the board has contemplated or is going to take follow-up action. And I think that if it's okay with the board, I'm going to reach out, point of contact to the chief to explain the steps that we're taking and to invite into the process. So that's part of the steps that we're taking, I think. But I'm okay with not taking formal action. Okay. No comments on that? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Let's go now to 11B. Discussion and action of charter amendments for rationalized process for PAB policy and procedure reviews. This has my name, but I think this is also Vice Chair Wilson. The thing that this has come out of is a twofold realization on 11B.
Where is 11B?
There's no material.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, there's no material. I'm not gonna ask any action to be taken because there's no material.
Okay.
I just wanted to frame it and to encourage board members to think about it so that we can, come back in a couple of meetings with an actual item. And the two things that have come up, one of them is actually on our agenda, is the use of force. But the first one is that there's been like a consistent issue where we are not receiving enough time to review policies that are coming within the 30 days, where we have an issue of submitting things to us where we can only hear them for one meeting, which is simply, you know, not enough time to review a full policy. And that's dovetailing with like the council recommended and actually instituted a 45-day runway for our review for the military equipment, but there are other ordinances that have a 30-day period. And so the 45 was born out of like us saying we need more time. 30 days is not enough because of different Brown Acts, agendizing requirements and things of that nature. And so part of it is like a soft recommendation to request that the STO also be extended to 45 days to match the same concerns that were addressed by the military equipment ordinance. But also more than that, not just about what is currently supposed to be submitted to us. I think that there was, you know, with the use of force policy, a real concern that some significant policies are changed, you know, prior to any community input. And I think that there have been a lot of comments both from the council and from like the, you know, different community members about how like the charter requirement that we review policies 30 days after implementation just simply doesn't make sense if we're a review board, if we're an oversight board. And so I think there's a balance that we have to strike, because there are, as the department has pointed out, there are some grammatical changes, there are some changes that are, you know, not worth submitting. But I think overall, like, it seems to me like it's been evident that a best practice would be to submit it 30 days before it's implemented, so that we can flag issues instead of having to like scramble and send urgent letters that are then addressed, you know, like in the dead of the night. So I think that those are like really those are the two concerns that are being addressed. I'm open to, I don't know what board members have to say about.
Well, I would just add
experience, yeah,
another
please.
concern. It's highlighted by the thing with the dogs. It might also be the pepper spray, but I can't remember. I feel like there's this other element where we don't even know that stuff is happening and staff is finding it on, or you're finding it on a public safety committee agenda, or sometimes it's even on another committee agenda. Like, it's never being formally routed to us, even though it is within our purview. And so that's another issue that I'd like to have addressed, so we're not kind of like scrambling to see like, oh, what's going on that we need to weigh in on, but instead, if it's a police issue and it's within our purview, then it gets routed to us, and then there's the whole timeline for that. So that's just another piece that, and I do think we have a little like window of opportunity here, because I just think we have a little bit of leverage right now. And so there's openness if we can come up with a reasonable set of say charter amendments. I think now is the time.
For a charter amendment, so what does that, this is an ignorant question, like what does that look like?
So the deadline for there's two tracks. One is for the council to recommend a charter amendment and to put it on the ballot, and that would be, I think, in August, the deadline for that. And so the track for that would be we submit a recommendation to the council
who propose it,
who would vote on it, or like someone would sponsor it, and there might be something like that. The second one is for the public to come in and to do ballot signature collection and things like that. And so under either track, I think the end product would be a formal recommendation from this board around a certain set of a formal recommendation to everyone, just like in general.
And if that's too heavy a lift, we could try to we could go for council resolutions, right? It's not as good as a charter, it's not as permanent, but there's other avenues we could pursue.
right?
Yeah.
Something to consider. Are there other comments on, I mean, like, we can have like if you have any general reflections on policy review rationalization, like this is what the item is for. I think that we've been kind of like struggling underwater, so.
Yeah, I agree with it. I think we need more time. And I think the word that I would use is the way in which policies are shared with us doesn't give us a sufficient amount of time to be able to respond responsibly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I know, I don't disagree with that, and then I guess it's just more on just like the tactical approach, like it would seem to me like. Even if it wasn't binding, if we could get some kind of like council. Like it's like, whatever, it's codified that this is the best practice, like that would still seem like more than we have right now and would likely be easier than a charter
Yeah.
amendment.
I think one thing that we have brought up consistently is that the council, and we saw it last night, the council benefits from our input. I mean, like, there are just some things that are not looked at as closely until we weigh in, and we have a charge from the public to actually review under a certain set of parameters, whether certain standards are being met and whether certain rights are being protected, best practices are being followed. And there's an element of like iron sharpening iron when we're
Well, I would just call it due diligence.
I mean, due diligence, yeah, a lot of words that we can use, but it is and so when things are put forward very quickly, I mean, like there's a lot of benefits to that. So I mean, that would go in like the whereas part of the recommendation. So I just want to flag it if there are other things you'd like to see in that, then please pass them to the director and he'll, is that okay? If you have specific, like, things you want to recommend around that, he'll compile a document for us. Okay. Any other comments on that? No? Okay, let's go to 9C, discussion action on the review of BPD's policy 300, use of force and next steps. Well, first, I thank the board for taking urgent action. It was very effective. I mean, I'm not counting things in the win column. I think that it's really just about like, I don't know, fidelity to the processes that are set in front of us. So I think, for context, Deputy Chief Tate reached out to me after the council, like a week ago, after the department rescinded the policy. And she said that she would still like to work with us. And so I think that, my recommendation would be to appoint me and a public member of the public who was involved in the previous use of force discussions to be on an informal subcommittee with the department to bring back recommendations to the board. I think that it's important that a member of the public who is involved in those discussions be part of that committee. I mean, we can find someone, but I think that it's important because they had 3 years of intense negotiations and research, and that was built into the recommendations. And there's a lot of historical knowledge that would be lost if we don't have someone from that. And so that would be my recommendation. I know that there was someone who was here last time, George Perez was, who offered to be on that committee. So I don't know if people want to be more broad and send out, requests to anyone who was involved in that to join, or if we feel comfortable with them, I'd be open to.
I just think my concern, as long as the person is effective.
Yeah. Effective, yeah, I mean, and knowledgeable.
Yeah, effective, knowledgeable, not a distraction.
And I'm sorry, what is our policy, man? We can just appoint public members.
That's what I'm looking for. I actually believe there's a technicality where there has to be a majority of board members for it to be possible to go that way. That's what I'm trying to pin down right now. If I could just tell it.
Yeah, how does that going? I think we have to vote on it.
Is this our last item?
There's one more, right?
There's one more, it's the immigration.
Oh, why don't we move to that and let staff look this up and then come back to this one? The immigration one, you're gonna report on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, can I ask on this one, it's like, we would we would need to ask him, well, I suppose you feel like you have his permission,
He has volunteered.
he has volunteered.
It's a matter of like, does the board feel comfortable? I mean, like,
Yeah.
he was like the chair of
Right.
that committee, so I feel comfortable.
Right.
Yeah, I have a section, it's under section J3 of the board's current standing rules. Yeah, it just states that board members must constitute a majority membership of any subcommittee.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Board members must constitute a majority of membership of any subcommittee.
Okay, yeah, so that's why I was saying not making it a formal subcommittee.
Yeah, just throws us off when you say subcommittee. But just to clarify that, what you're essentially requesting the board is to appoint you the lead,
Yes,
on the review and the authority to be able to essentially coordinate with community.
yes, I'm gonna call it a working group.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, well, if it's informal, do we need to do anything?
You would need to approve me taking the lead on it. If unless other people are interested in.
And sorry, taking the lead is, what do you, I know we're
To
bringing
meet
this
with
back.
Deputy Chief Tate and to discuss the policy. I mean, like their recommendations and to bring it back to the board. Like that would be.
Understand why they made their recommendations.
Yeah, that's part of, so like, the reason, I was part of the policy subcommittee, which is currently dissolved right now. That's a normal process that we would have on the policy subcommittee, but because we don't have that, it would be, we've done that with them for, I don't know, like many years at this point with many policies. So it would follow very similar processes as the policies.
The liaison process.
Yeah.
Essentially, you were.
I mean, I can move, or I move, I approve.
Okay,
Do you have?
we're moving, designating the chair to be the lead on addressing the use of force issue. Is that what we're doing, essentially?
The board are confirmed, but.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then I second that.
Can we also friendly amendment to include a member of the public?
Right.
No,
In the working group?
we don't need to, and it's informal, so we're not going to, because right? We don't want to,
It's not a formal committee, and you're just consulting.
yeah, I don't think we need
That's
to.
fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do
Do
it.
you think that without that referral and recommendation, that they would be included necessarily in these conversations? That's what I want to make sure.
You mean in our public meetings? Or you mean the meetings you're gonna have?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're choosing to bring them in. Oh, you mean there might be an objection to it?
I don't know. That's why I would like to have a formal referral. I've never had an objection to it, but I just wanna.
What do you think?
I guess my question is, do you think Deputy Chief Tate will object?
No, not necessarily. I think there's always a benefit to having a board recommend a referral when there's someone.
I think, so we're doing something that we know we can't technically do. So we're creating a new process.
Why do you say we can't technically do that?
Because I'm also looking at our current policy manual, like,
Yeah.
it's actually in the commissioner's manual that we can't have. First of all, in the commissioner's manual, public members only appointed to a standing subcommittee, and they cannot, the actual members have to be a majority of the subcommittee, so we can't actually do it. But you want to circumvent that by having us say, do
Okay.
it. I don't think that makes sense. I think you should just do it.
I thought it was just the committee. I thought it was just the committee thing. Okay, so.
No.
All right, let's next my friendly amendment, we'll keep your.
Next. I mean, it was really your amendment, I was just like, whatever.
No, I don't wanna have the amendment to add. the
Okay.
member. We have your original
Okay,
motion
I
and
make
my
the motion.
second
Okay, and the motion was to designate Chair Cayetano
as the lead.
as the lead on the review of the use of force policy.
Mhm. With that written will.
Turcos and the Vice Chair Wilson. I'll start with Board Member Buzzell Turco.
Good, yes.
Board Member Wells. Yeah. Vice Chair Wilson.
Yes.
And Chair Cayetano.
Yes,
All right, the motion carries.
okay. Let's go now to 11D. This was an item submitted by council member about this. I appreciated the council member submitting. This is the first time that I've ever seen a council member submit a recommendation to us. And I think this is the type of process that Vice Chair Wilson is talking about, right? To have council members submit recommendations to us. So I guess like what I would like to do is to explain it really briefly and then to ask everyone to comment about it as well. So the item is actually to refer specific procedures around how BPD should respond when there is an immigration enforcement action taking place in the city, and it is drawn from Denver's city policy. And my understanding is that the council member has also talked to the department about these already, and that they're aligned with many of them, or that they're aligned. And so, but I think that there's an open question about how will these be reflected in the policy, which is something that we can weigh in on, and also B, the substance of the recommendations, whether we have any additions, subtractions, whatever. But I just wanted to explain like that background for the board's awareness. There are, I think, different parts of it that I don't think I need to explain, but I can answer as many questions as I can. Yeah. Are there any board member comments, questions?
Now, I have to be honest that I did not really review this.
Okay.
Are we supposed to take action today?
So I will say that they are submitting it for the next council meeting, which means that we don't have another, what's it called? Meeting before it's gonna be considered.
This is just to give our feedback on this proposed resolution.
Feedback, approval, whatever. I mean, I have some substantive comments, but I wanna be able to.
I'm okay with you making them. I'm acknowledging that
Okay.
I haven't reviewed it, so
Yeah.
I personally would benefit from them.
Okay, so I just want, like, I think that, the transparency in law enforcement, this is on page 50 of our packet, by the way. The transparency in law enforcement conduct section and the investigation of criminal conduct section, I think is, very good and aligned with, I think what are emerging to be best practices in sanctuary cities. I think that, especially the investigation of criminal conduct by civil immigration enforcement personnel, that was something that was actually specifically recommended and approved by Attorney General Rob Bonta. So I think that is a good idea. I was interested in the second section, de-escalation and federal provocations and provision of first aid, specifically in light of what happened in SFO this last week. I don't know if any of the board members are familiar with it. I asked the staff to pull a couple screenshots from the event because what happened was there was an immigration enforcement action. It was reported that TSA actually sort of gave information to ICE, and ICE came, and there was a lot of confusion in the airport, and a lot of anxiety as well. As we know, like there are ICE agents now in airport, just kind of like airports overseeing what's going on without actually being qualified to provide any sort of services that TSA provides. But there was an SFPD response as well. And the SFPD response drew a lot of criticism from the community, from different immigrant rights activists and also lawyers, because of, in part it's the appearance, but in other part it's the effect of what was happening. And I just want to pull up the screenshots if possible, because I think it is relevant to what is being proposed in part in this resolution. And so I want to make sure that we're aware of maybe a very real life example. I don't know if it's possible to pull up the screenshots. So this is a different screenshot than what I was thinking about.
There's more.
Okay, let's keep going through a couple of them.
It's kind of. You think the one where they're like standing?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of this as well, yeah.
I figured you know what I was talking about. Do you have a picture of the ice agent first? Do you have that one?
We didn't take a screenshot of the picture of that as agent, they just took the fact that they were just two guys in a black face.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, like, you didn't take a screenshot. Well, he's pointing that out. I mean, one of the things that was happening was that there were two ice agents, and they looked like regular travelers. I mean, they were literally in black hoodies, no identification, nothing at all. And I think, I mean, this is like one of the screenshots. There's a video of this. I decided not to show the video. I think it's a little bit traumatizing, honestly. What happened? I don't know. But I think, you know, the officers in SFPD were actually creating a little bit of a barrier to provide crowd control. And so it's very, I think from the video, if you go and watch it, it's apparent like what's happening is happening on a bench. The lady is being arrested and like crying out for help while this guy in a black hoodie with a backpack, no identification, won't say anything that's happening. There's two guys in black hoodies and is putting handcuffs around her, and she's asking for help from the people around, and the people are saying to the officers, you know, can you help identify yourself? Why are you standing here blocking me? Things like that. And I think in the video that they're standing in a perimeter in a way that gives the appearance, at least, and even the effect of providing assistance to the enforcement action in a way that I think is played out in a few other cities. And so even though assistance in immigration enforcement actions is explicitly prohibited by California state law, the way that it was talked about by SFPD and by the mayor's office was that they weren't providing assistance. They were creating a perimeter for crowd control and for public safety. And so I think that the lines get very blurred. And I think the example that happened in SFO was a good, or that what happened in SFO was a good example of how the lines blur between providing public safety and in that specific instance, or help, you know, assisting public safety and assisting immigration enforcement in those specific situations. And I think that the item on, let's see, the second section 2 is a little bit like, I just think there's an opportunity to clarify that in the resolution. Like, for example, you know, like maybe not in the recommendations, but in the resolution itself. And so to flag that as a concern.
But what would it say?
I know, yeah, this is a tough part because I didn't have time to like propose specific language. And we have to make action right now.
Well, do you have other changes?
No, I don't, no.
Okay.
No, so I just want to hear thoughts on that, and I'll think about a specific language that I could say. How about that?
Yeah, we could also authorize you to submit your language when you come up with it. I guess just conceptually, maybe if you don't have language. Because I can't imagine a scenario where we would think BPD should just completely stand back, right? Or not even show up, like this is.
Right.
Okay, so we acknowledge they need to be there. So what is it that we think would be an appropriate role, I guess?
Can I ask you just on this, like, do you feel like number 3 would have actually addressed that? In the sense that, like, bystanders, I actually haven't watched the video, so
Yeah.
like, do they make clear that they are, whatever, they're encircling the agents as a matter of public safety?
So I guess I get 2 points on that. One, you can't hear what they're saying to what the officers are saying to the people.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I know.
In terms of what they're saying.
Mhm.
The second thing is like creating a perimeter where you're like a donut, basically, where the enforcement action is happening inside and the officers are creating the donut, and then all the people are outside. Gives the appearance at the very least, right, of assisting and.
But I just don't know. I mean, I don't actually, what do you think that they should have done?
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with. Like, let a mob happen and
I don't think there
people
was.
jump on the.
So I mean, like that's.
But like, should the local police department allow people to mob immigration officers.
So I think the recommendation that. I mean, I don't think that's what was happening, and I don't.
I'm not suggesting this, I'm asking because it's hard, when you say they shouldn't put a perimeter around them, you're kind of saying.
So I think they should be providing that sort of perimeter when there's a threat to life or safety. I mean, to life, a threat like that, like a threat of bodily injury, or a threat of like. A threat, basically like in those situations, I think it's appropriate.
But I mean, they might say it's a de-escalatory tactic, right? Like, we don't want it to get so bad that we have to actually intervene to,
Yeah, I think in some respects that providing crowd control for ICE is assisting them.
Well, right, no, I understand
Yeah.
that, I'm just saying like, this, I think this is why, I mean, I can see the other argument too, where it's like, they might say, right, but like, we didn't want the situation to get crazy with people swarming, just because it didn't happen yet, like, we don't, undoing it after it's happened is worse than preventing it from the beginning. But that may facilitate the action, on the other hand, like them, they clearly can't intervene, right? So.
Yeah, I think one of the things that the sanctuary commitment is rooted in is instilling trust in our law enforcement. And I think what happens when you create that scene of, at least within sanctuary cities, right, is that it looks and it feels to the people who are there that they are providing assistance in those moments. And so I think, I mean, I'm not sure that even if I've talked to people who have been in these situations, that when they're on the front lines and an officer, this has happened remember when there was like at the bridge, I forget what it was, the Alameda Pier or whatever, when there was that, like when officers are saying stay away from this area, like that community member feels that is assisting the operations of immigration enforcement. And so there has to be a recognition of that, and even if there's not a recommendation. Right, like, I mean, like, I don't know what the specific, I have a specific recommendation around. Only performing those types of services when there's a threat to life. Threat to like an actual threat. But I don't know if that recommendation is, this is the appropriate place to make that. But I do think that recognizing the potential harm is important as well, especially given what happened in SFO recently.
If you want to make a motion, go ahead. I really don't feel like, I just don't know enough about, to me, I'm a little uncomfortable with what you're suggesting. Because I don't know at what point you determine that there's, a threat. And it seems like things have to get pretty escalated before you do that. And then the tactics that might need to be employed to de-escalate at the point when things are kind of becoming very heated, then I don't think I would like that either. To be like more aggressive tactics potentially, so. You want to make a motion, go ahead. Otherwise, I think if that's the only issue, then I would say, let's send a thank you to Councilmember Blackaby for this referral. That we considered it and we think it's a great step. There may be future modifications that are needed, but if you have a different.
No, I think it's fine. I wanted to just flag in light of the example, and I don't have like I didn't write up anything for it,
Okay, I'll put some video on it, but I just don't, I don't know.
I feel like you guys should watch the video.
Yeah, I will.
But I'm happy to support that recommendation, that motion, or the letter that you're. I also think that, we should emphasize that we're happy to work on the policy implementation method as well after this.
Yeah. That's
Right.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got that?
Was that a motion?
Yeah, that's the motion.
Not mine.
So this motion to write a letter to Board Member Blackaby, thanking him for the opportunity, with the note about that there are.
So that we're really willing and happy, or would really appreciate, welcome being able to work on the policy specifics when the time is appropriate. Something like that.
Okay, and that was a second from Board Member Wilks. Okay. All right, Board Member Bills Jerko,
Yeah, yes.
Board Member Wills,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yes.
and Chair Cayetano.
Yes.
All right, the motion carries. That'll take us to our last item,
What is our last item?
public comment.
Public comment, okay, great. Let's go to agenda item 12, the public comment. I don't know why I did that, actually.
We're ready for
I usually
you.
don't do that.
At this time, if there are any virtual attendees that would like to provide a public comment, please use the red sign icon. Okay, so I see two hands raised. Just a moment, if I can get the clock up on screen. Sorry, one moment. Okay, Maria Sol, you've been granted permission to speak.
I am so impressed by this commission. I'm on two other ones, and this is so thoughtful and just kind of remarkable. And it's also represents what keeps so many lawyers so busy because it's all about the parsing of different words, like the last one, what actually is assisting, you know? So the first thing that I wanted to mention is that just the efficiency of having things relating to police being rooted to you would be just such common sensible, like no brainer, like, yes, please. Because again, the obscurity and the oh gosh, things can get so lost in the overthinking. So your request that things be directed to you directly makes an awful lot of sense. And then I wanted to, since I did pay attention throughout the entire meeting last evening, mention that it might not be the issue of which surveillance company is employed. It's the issue that you brought up, Margot, of whether or not it's a foregone conclusion that there even be this degree of surveillance. And I think no matter what company you manage to, consider, the community will rise and say, no, please, no. Why are we going along with the entire globe in this race to just watch everybody and then punish people if, God forbid, they do something wrong according to someone who happens to have the power and authority, which we're seeing globally kind of be barbaric in many ways. So I think many of us are trying to not have it be a foregone conclusion and come up with a different operating system for how we can promote safety and well being for everyone. So I don't just want to rearrange chairs on the deck of the Titanic. I prefer to not hit icebergs and not sink. So I just really again commend your thoughtfulness and your thoroughness. Oh, and by the way, I participate with the emergency and fire. Anyway, um, the drone suggestion for the fire department is specific, and we don't have to over militarize and over equipment and tool, you know, provide such that some people, once they have them, will use them. It's kind of like building blocks. I would prefer. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see the clock. Thank you very much. And go rest, y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more speaker. Kelly Hammergren, you've been granted permission to speak.
Okay, thank you for a very interesting meeting. I just have a couple of comments. And that is, the special meeting will be on June 2nd. That is what they did settle on. And that meeting won't be posted for the public, more than likely, until after 5 p.m. on May 28th. last night there were I counted only 6 commenters that were in favor of the contract, and that was out of nearly 3 hours of public comment. And then as for the Public Safety Committee, there never was any sharing of the content of the PAB recommendations. So I did attend that meeting. I don't recall any of the council members discussing your recommendations other than acknowledging that they did receive a letter, which of course none of us saw. I've been I've been reading every council agenda now for 11 years, and I really don't know how your recommendations are going to get included in the documents with the city council agendas, and that is really worrisome since you have so much to contribute. And I have less confidence than Mr. Murillo, your staff, that your recommendations will be included. And I would suggest that you do make a specific communication to the council for that regarding the Public Safety Committee decisions. And I would not want your recommendations to get put in the list of public communications that we have to search for in records online. So that's just my impression from reading agendas and publishing what I can about upcoming meetings since 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker. Let's reset this. Berkeley Scanner, Emily, you've been granted permission to speak. 3 minutes are on the screen.
Thanks. I won't take the whole 3 minutes. This is Emily from the Berkeley Scanner. I did just want to chime in on the meeting document issue. I do think usually they will add the presentations to the agenda items. But I agree with Kelly's point that if there's a letter or something, I think I would traditionally see that in communications, and then it's hard to find, it's much harder to find that. But as far as the presentations, they're usually added, but I don't see that that's been done yet. And I do see it on the PAB site, but it would be great if the clerk could add the PAB presentation to the item. If that's possible, because it's nice that it's all in one place, but I do appreciate that we could find it on your website today. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, Chair, we have no additional public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for coming to this meeting, especially people who were there at the council meeting last night. With that, I think I'm up for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, second time.